time to get started. Good morning, everybody. Pam, will you do a roll call so we can confirm we have a quorum?
Good morning, Chair Ely, you're present.
Present?
Vice Chair Sweeney.
Present.
Good
Present.
morning.
Morning.
Member Bitzer.
Here.
Member Carrasco. Just calling him for the record. He did say he was not going to be here. And Member Curry.
Present.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. So now I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the April 24th, 2026 agenda.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Pam, will you do a roll call, please?
Chair Ely, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Vice Chair Sweeney.
Yes.
Thank you. Member Bitzer
I vote yes.
and Member Curry.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Third item on the agenda is approval of the March 23rd, 2026 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion for approval of those minutes?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Oh, yes. Member Bitzer, your vote.
I vote yes.
And Member Curry.
Yes.
Chair Ely
Yes.
and Vice Chair Sweeney.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Pam. Item number 4 is public comment, and this is just general public comment. We'll be taking public comment on EIB 25-32 during the public hearing, but if there's somebody who would like to come forward with any public comment in general, please raise your hand on the platform or come forward in the room. Now I see somebody on the platform with their hand raised.
Yes. Mr. Coleman, you are able to unmute yourself and make your comment.
Yes, hi, thank you. My comment won't take very long. Good morning, I'm Randy Coleman. I'm Vice President of the Clean Energy Coalition for Santa Fe County, or CEC, and a resident of El Dorado at Santa Fe. In August of 2025, Santa Fe County approved a conditional use permit, or CUP, for the installation of over 500,000 lithium-ion batteries to be installed in a fire risk area within 1.5 miles of over 10,000 homes, businesses, schools, the community college, and a prison. Nationally, this CUP was the first battery storage facility to be approved since the devastating battery fire at Moss Landing, California in early 2025, which contaminated homes and environmentally sensitive areas for miles around with toxic fumes and heavy metals. The Moss Landing incident prompted local jurisdictions across the country to delay land use approvals for battery storage until local ordinances could be updated based on studies that would yield battery storage specific land use regulations. Santa Fe County was asked by local community representatives to consider similar action and chose not to. The Santa Fe County battery storage land use was approved because it met all current land use regulations. CEC supports the concept of this board establishing rules to adopt siting and safety standards for stationary lithium-ion battery storage systems, or BESS. However, CEC recommends conducting a public discussion and study before the proposed regulatory components are adopted. Best sightings and safety standards are critically needed in New Mexico before out-of-state corporate investor conglomerates proliferate battery storage across the state in poorly planned and uncontrolled locations, as Santa Fe County has recently done. CEC is a proponent of such standards and has leveraged the resources of subject matter experts to support their development. The proposed regulatory components require further study before they can be adopted. The rules for siting clearances is dependent on many variables, such as the environment surrounding the battery storage, the management and safety systems, and the proposed battery chemistry. The proposed 100-foot clearance is still insufficient. The rule for toxic discharge mitigation should be based on the best management practices of the US EPA, develop permitting regulations under the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, or NPDS, to control stormwater discharges, Sector L for landfills and land application sites. And the rule for adoption of NFPA 855 should include the application of recommendations from Appendix G of NFPA 855. There are other potential rules to consider. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today, and I can offer a written copy of my statements if you tell me where to submit them.
Yeah, you can submit them through Pam Jones with the Environment Department. As is Mr. Coleman, thank you so much for your comments. I am, as custom for this board, I'm going to limit public comment to 3 minutes, and I'll let you know if you're getting close to that and ask you to wrap it up. So,
I'm done. I'm done.
yeah, appreciate your comments. Miss, I see somebody else with their hand up on the platform, Pam. Miss Evans, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Great, thank you. My name is Deanna Evans. I am a retired chemical and environmental engineer with a background consulting for the Los Alamos National Laboratory. I live in Sandia's East Mountains, just 5 miles from the proposed PCR solar and lithium battery storage site on Diamond Tail Ranch. This project plans to house 834,000 lithium-ion batteries, one of the largest in New Mexico. The siting of this project is particularly egregious for 4 reasons. Scenic and ecological impact. This project requires clear-cutting more than 1,800 acres of coniferous forests in our Rocky Mountain Wildlife Corridor and will be visible from 2 national scenic byways. PCR has yet to secure a determination from the USACE regarding 15 acres of mapped water tributaries. Thermal runaway near drought-stricken forests. In our high desert environment, lightning, rain exposure, and/or pest damage can trigger a thermal runaway. As hot air rises, cooler air rushes in, pulling in dry brush, lofting embers, potentially igniting the surrounding forests of the Sandia and Ortiz Mountains, both less than 2 miles away. Evacuation logistics. There are several communities within 10 miles of this site. The fire would require 5,000 to 6,000 residents to evacuate onto Highway 14. Many of those communities have only one road out to access Highway 14. The lack of fire services. This site is in a portion of Sandoval County with no full fire service. The nearest non-volunteer station is 45 minutes away. All scenarios would require a 14-mile trek over gravel roads. I urge you to provide the sensible and scientific oversight to protect our communities and to preserve New Mexico's scenic mountain wildlife corridors without delay. Thank you.
Thank you,
That's
Ms.
all I have.
Evans. I appreciate your comments. Does anybody else on the platform wish to provide public comment?
User.
Okay, call-in user, please identify yourself and provide your public comment.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead. Calling user number 3, I think. I can't hear you now. Try again. Okay, so okay, we'll go to the room and we'll come back to you, and hopefully we'll be able to connect with you when we return to you. Anybody in the room would like to give public comment? Yes, ma'am. Please identify yourself and then you'll need to speak into the microphone. Press it so that you see the green light, and then begin.
Good morning. My name is Cheryl Gibson. The issue at hand is lithium-ion battery energy storage systems in New Mexico, LIDAS. There are no statewide siting standards for LIDAS facilities. During our 2025 legislature, Representative McQueen, the chair of our House Energy, Environment, and Natural Resources Committee, sponsored HB 435, Renewable Energy Facility Siting Standards. HB 435 died in his committee. McQueen did not petition the EIB for siting standards, which has the expertise and jurisdiction. The Diamond Tail facility in Sandoval County is categorized for zoning purposes as a transformer yard. It is actually a proposed LIDAS facility. This facility is adjacent to multiple residential areas, a wildlife corridor, a natural scenic byway, and several mountain ranges. In March of 2023, Senator Cervantes correctly stated at a hearing in the Senate chamber, "We dupe the people with selective words." The public is being duped, deceived, and heretofore left without health and welfare protections and due process because the proposed LIDAS facilities are being categorized as transformer yards. In January 2025, the Vistra Moss Energy Storage Facility, 20 miles south of Monterey, California, caught fire. Lithium-ion batteries. It burned for several days, sending up a plume of 50,000 pounds of heavy metals, which were distributed across the landscape per scientific peer review. Heavy metals are toxic. Cleanup is ongoing, and long-term health and ecological impacts remain uncertain. I respectfully beseech this board to take responsibility for LIDAS siting standards pursuant to Article 20, Section 21 of our New Mexico Constitution and its proactive EIB enabling statutes. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Gibson. Is there anybody else in the room that would like to speak? Yes, ma'am. Please identify yourself.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Patience O'Dowd, and I am the petitioner and a chemical engineer. In 2025, House Bill 435, entitled Renewable Energy Facility Siting Rules, identified a gap, a regulatory gap. The need to evaluate impacts from lithium-ion battery energy storage, or I also call it LIDAS, to health, safety, the environment, and communities. That bill proposed placing this responsibility with the Public Regulation Commission. However, as you well know, the PRC does not have jurisdiction over environmental and chemical risks of this nature. But as you know, New Mexico already does, again through Article 20, our Constitution, Article 20, Section 21, adopted in 1971, and its implementing statutes of the board also adopted in 1971. This is a really great package, very proactive. The Environmental Improvement Board, as having technical expertise and jurisdiction as demonstrated with PFAS. Case law in 1975, New Mexico Municipal League Inc. versus New Mexico Environmental Improvement Board, 1975, states that It is the intention of the legislature to give the Environmental Improvement Board statewide paramount authority, and that all other entities of government and political subdivisions therefore must conform. LIBAs must be cited and regulated to avoid environmental harm. That is the purpose of alternative energy, is to not create environmental harm, but to avoid it, including fire emissions, soil contamination, and despoilment of natural resources. Our forests and our soils, our carbon, our greenhouse gases capture. We need them. These risks are not theoretical. Again, the Moss Landing battery fire showed that lofted plumes that went straight up because they weren't in an inversion next to a mountain, can still deposit toxic metals into ecosystems, into a wetlands, 50,000 pounds of heavy metals. Other incidents, such as the Graniteville chlorine release and the Gumi hydrogen fluoride release, though not from LIBAS, from spills, show that dense hydrogen fluoride is a ground hugging cloud and can flow off-site and cause immediate harm and death. These represent plume risks, long-term contamination through deposition from high plumes, and acute exposure from ground level transport.
Ms. Adam, I'm going to ask you to wrap up your public comment. You will have an opportunity to address the board further as we get to the agenda item number 5 as the petitioner.
Okay, I'm almost done. Plume modeling under site-specific meteorological conditions is necessary, as we have mountains here and they have a Freud number of less than 1 often winter nights. I respectfully ask the board with rulemaking under for LIBAS.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the room that would like to provide public comment? In the back, sir? You'll need to come to the microphone.
Just a question on public comment. I'm unfamiliar with these procedures. I do have public comment on item number 7 related to food service. Is this the time to do that now, or do we wait until there?
No, let's wait till the hearing on that. There'll be an opportunity for public comment there.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the room? Ma'am, please identify yourself.
I am Charlie Gonzalez of La Madera, the Park in Albuquerque.
Please go ahead.
My family and I have rescued many animals through time. With this flammable and explosive lithium battery storage center on the eastern and northern side of the Sandia Mountain, I have deep concerns for the wildlife of the La Madera area, Casitas area, Puerto Rico area, as well as the people who cannot speak themselves. On both sides of the Sandia Mountain, those who have grown up here are all well aware that inversions are common on both sides of the mountain, which can increase exposure of toxic poisoning for the wildlife and the environment. I'm here to speak for those who, the domestic pets, livestock, deer, bear, mountain lions, bobcats, and yes, our wild horses, all more, which are our neighbors. I am already saddened by the loss of our majestic native bighorn sheep from the Sandia Mountains in the 90s. This lack of concern has got to stop. The Forest Service has already been caught off the Tunnel Springs Perennial Spring and Placido for development, and the people from Placido that have had it reopened. My family has kept the Oco Spring running for decades, where our family ranch still is, and we grew our food there growing up. Wildlife is always welcome on the Ojito, and on our property, as we all know it, as a wildlife corridor. This battery center is not even for the people of La Madera or Placitas. It is for Santa Fe and Albuquerque. That proves it placed elsewhere. We should not risk our homes, our wildlife for this purpose. These battery centers should be placed in flat desert areas, not mountain valleys. It is a fire hazard and a chemical pollution, both of which can kill their pets and wildlife, low to the ground in an inversion. I pray that you will look at this issue as the experts you are and enact statewide siting standards to protect us all, our families, our pets, our properties, our environment, and our remaining wildlife. My granddaughter is also here with me today. We would like to protect her future. These batteries are supposed to help us with climate change, not cause it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there anybody else in the room? Ma'am, please identify yourself and begin.
Yes, thank you all for having me. My name is Liliana Gonzalez Pittman. I'm a lifelong fire science professional and have worked both federally and statewide in New Mexico, including with the USDA Forest Service in fire response, wildland firefighter, wilderness ranger. I live on the east side of the Sandia Mountains on my family ranch of more than 100 years, and I'm familiar with the current regulatory gaps in Sandoval County. Lithium-ion battery energy storage systems present real fire and toxic emission risks. Existing standards such as the Underwriters Laboratory 9540, Underwriters Laboratory 9540A, and NFPA 855 are important, but they do not fully address all offsite impacts under site-specific conditions, especially in complex terrain. In the Sandia area, we experience inversion conditions many nights, especially in the winter. Those conditions can trap smoke and emissions near the ground and increase risk to nearby communities, wildlife, and first responders. New Mexico has already seen how inversions worsen smoke impacts during wildfires and prescribed burns. As a matter of fact, I took part in prescribed burns out of the Sandia Ranger District in Tijeras as part of an engine crew. When we did that, that was back in the late 80s. And actually, I should take that back. Yes, it was in the 80s. But we had to stop that. That is why a lot of prescribed burning does not get done in the Sandia Mountains, because the Forest Service, literally, we had to pay for people hotel rooms because the smoke was overtaking everybody there. So this is something that happens there in our area. In steep mountain terrain, a major fire event can spread rapidly upslope and across drainages under the right conditions, which raises concern for communities on both sides of the Sandias, including along the tramway corridor. These facilities should not be regulated through a patchwork of local decisions. They require statewide siting and safety standards informed by technical expertise. Engineers, fire protection engineers, especially in areas with steep terrain, limited access, and nearby communities. I respectfully ask the board to move forward with rulemaking. I also would like to say that the regulations for NFPA for LIBES, NFPA 855, some were instituted in 2023 when these were newer. It's now 2026, and there are other regulations that are now being asked to be put into contracts for these types of projects. And for the main reason being because of what has already happened in the past, and particularly California.
Thank you, Mrs. Gonzalez Pittman. I'm going to ask you to wrap it up. If you're not.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for being here. Anybody else in the room with public comment? Let's go to the platform. Can call-in user number 3 be unmuted and provide your comments? Call-in user number 3 with your hand raised, can you please provide the board with your public comment? It looks like she's still muted, Pam. I see the, yeah. Yeah. Any other, anybody else on the platform who would like to provide public comment Okay. If she comes back on, we'll take her. Yeah. So now we'll move on to item number 5, which is the petition at hand, and that's EIB 26-17 BES in the matter of the petition for rulemaking to adopt siting and safety standards for stationary lithium-ion battery energy storage system. Patience O'Dowd, will you please come forward and address the board on this matter? And again, let's try to keep it concise. Appreciate that.
Okay, sure. What you've heard so far is an excellent summary. What you haven't heard is that in New Mexico, and I put it in my supplemental report to you last week, which you probably have, and I have copies of what I presented today for all of you. What you're not hearing is that, as you do know, New Mexico's #1 private sector employer is tourism. And it provides over 93,000 jobs. Now, if we're going to, and we had horrendous fires in 2022 here, forest fires. We've had another bad one, I believe was in Lincoln County more recently. These are huge. And then you have flooding and, these fire spreads uphill, 4 times faster. So if we had a fire on the east side of Sandia or any mountain, it is going to spread to the west side of the mountain quite quickly because fire spreads quicker up. It dries it out ahead of time, as you probably know, and then it's hard to stop. It's so dry. And in my supplemental report to you, I gave you many pictures of me hiking through the foothills between Placitas and La Madera, the east side of the mountain. There is so much firewood there. It's dead juniper, not junipers, but what's the other one? Anyway, it's the other pinon. That's right, dead pinons. And so, I didn't know I'd get to speak.
Yeah. Ms. O'Dowd, one of the, in reading your petition, and thank you for bringing it forward, one of the questions I have is the jurisdiction of the board to actually address this matter. Could you briefly state where our jurisdiction may come from so that the board may or may not have the authority to actually make a decision on this?
I sure can. I just threw it in my glasses. Okay, so as you know, our anti-pollution statute was, constitute article was passed and then voted on by the people in November of 1971. It was very proactive. And right now there's a whole gambit of people attempting to get rid of that, remove it, and put natural resources under all the counties. I fought 5 versions of that at legislature. I and my friends have fought this and kept the Article 20, Section 21 in place. And we fought it this year. And it's a lot of work for us every year to come do that. Why do they do that? They want to separate our natural resources. They want to give jurisdiction to the counties and the municipalities. If that happens, then our natural resources go to the highest bidder between 133 municipalities and counties. This is very dangerous because they don't have the expertise that has been mandated to you through statute 74. I had it with me when I was up here before. Yeah, here we go. 74 is the Environmental Improvement Act, 74-1-1 through 74-1-17. Now, 74-1-8 gives the EIB the power to act. And the EIB was designed specifically to operationalize the constitutional provision to protect our environment by setting standards. So for instance, if I want to have a court case, I first have to have damages. That's not proactive. But with the Environmental Improvement Board, it was designed proactively so that you could set standards prior to damages. And we wouldn't have to go to court. This is so smart, saves the taxpayer money, saves the court, the system, right? So the, I'll read you again. I can read you some other of case law, but
No, I'm just looking for, so normally the way the board operates is we get our authority from the legislature and they tell us which laws we can adopt. And I'm just wondering, and you're citing 74-1-8 as our legal authority to adopt rules related to LIBES. That's what I'm hearing you say.
yes.
Okay.
And so in the case, New Mexico Municipal League Incorporated.
Miss Data, I don't want, we're not going to go into case history right now.
Looking
No,
for
no.
jurisdiction.
No, well, I'm looking for the authority under the Environmental Improvement Act. So
I can read that to you.
I have it, and we all have that.
Yeah.
Yeah, in front of us.
So the legislature is. Let me just read that one annotation again.
Okay, go ahead. And then I'm going to ask the other parties that have made an appearance to come forward and provide additional information.
Okay. Quote, this is from the courts. This is 1975. It is the intention of the legislature to give the Environmental Improvement Board statewide paramount authority, and that all other entities of government and political subdivisions thereof must conform.
Thank you. I see that the New Mexico Environment Department and Mr. Weatherby have both provided entries of appearance. I'm going to ask the department to come forward now and make a presentation. And I'm, as noted, particularly interested in whether the board actually has jurisdiction to take up this matter.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair Swain, and members of the board. My name is Greg Smith here. I'm here today on behalf of the New Mexico Environment Department, and I'm joined on the platform by Hazardous Waste Bureau Chief John David Nance. In reviewing the petition and the proposed rule, there were a couple of issues that I wanted to raise. It appears that the rule is attempting to regulate lithium-ion battery storage systems and the siting of those systems. The petition states that the EIB has a mandatory duty to promulgate rules to regulate hazardous waste as a basis of the proposed rule. However, the Hazardous Waste Act only applies once a hazardous waste has been generated. So the Hazardous Waste Act does not apply to a product prior to the point of the generation of a hazardous waste. I also want to point out that the petition and proposed rule allude to groundwater protection, and I believe that would fall under the jurisdiction of the Water Quality Control Commission. Aside from these issues, the department does not have a position on the petition and would defer to the judgment of the board. If the board does decide to grant the petition, we would request a hearing so that we can fully brief these matters.
Thank you, Mr. Smith-Carey.
Sorry.
Mr. Weatherby, are you on the platform?
Yes, I am. Madam Chairwoman, how are you today?
Good. How are you, Mr. Weatherby?
I'm doing pretty well. Thank you very much. I really appreciate what the petitioner has brought, and I think she makes some really important points. There's a lot of activity going on right now about energy-related matters in New Mexico. Your board has not directly ruled or provided rulemaking on energy matters However, there's a lot that is going on right now. And if, I guess, as a journalist, I'm asking a question, what, if it's not EIB's responsibility, where does it fall? I think these are legitimate concerns that people are bringing forward. And it seems like maybe if there's some ambiguity, that it would make sense to be proactive about it and try to establish some way forward. Because if hazardous waste is only to be regulated after it becomes a problem, it certainly doesn't seem to be what the intent of lawmakers or the courts have seen in the past. It's kind of, closing the barn door after the horses got out. And I would hope the Environment Department would be able to move to do something and assist people in putting together regulations that you all might be able to act on. So that it's just an observation. It's really interesting seeing that this is a citizens petition. I think that's very important for people to be able to petition their government for grievances they have, and this seems to be someone who's trying to deal with things proactively. So that's all I would offer at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Weatherby. I'd like to turn to the board counsel to get his take on the board's authority to actually make a ruling on this type of petition.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the petition, as NBD pointed out, they cited the statute MSA 7418 A13. And again, as NMAC counsel pointed out, that subparagraph deals with hazardous waste and underground tanks as provided in the Hazardous Waste Act. What's being described here is a product, really. They're talking about these battery storage systems, which are not waste by definition. So by strict reading of the statute, it's not, I don't understand the product, these battery storage systems as being under the jurisdiction of either NMED or the EIB.
All right, so yes, I was just going to turn to the board now to see if there's any discussions or questions of council on this matter. Mr. Bitzer.
I'm trying to figure out what the bill number was that died in the first committee. I'm trying to figure out why the guy who chairs that committee couldn't get it out of his own committee. What's the number on that?
HB 45? 435.
That'd be great. Pull it up here, but slow. Please.
Yes.
That's it, 2025. No.
So this board has taken up a number of new rules related to new statutes like the PFAS Protection Act and amendments to the Hazardous Waste Act that gives us the authority to adopt rules to conform, to implement those statutes. To me, it's a little disconcerting that the bill didn't get out of committee and didn't go through the legislative process and get adopted for us to act on it. And because I'm skeptical that we do have the jurisdiction because the bill failed and because I'm hearing from our lawyer and the department lawyer that we really don't have the authority to regulate waste or regulate anything under the Hazardous Waste Act until it actually becomes waste. Any other board comments or discussions on this matter? Member Curry or Vice Chair Sweeney? it's clear under the act that if we take an action that's not lawful, it will be overturned, right? I mean, there are a few criteria we have to meet. It has to not be arbitrary and capricious. It has to be in the public interest, and it has to be lawful. And if we don't have the clear laws to adopt a rule, it will be overturned. Member Curry.
Along with Member Fitzgerald, if the only way that we can enact regulation is by the authority of the legislature. Has the board ever taken up anything that has come solely in front of it by petition?
Well, anybody can petition the board, right? But I don't know that we've ever taken anything up that we haven't had clear legislative authority to take up.
That seems clear.
Madam Chair, that's Mr. Weatherby with his hand raised.
Mr. Weatherby, please.
The kind of conundrum the board feels it's in. I was a legislator in another state a long time ago, and as a former legislator, I would say that in understanding the bill didn't make its way through the process, it might clarify this for the board as far as jurisdiction goes. That it really would make sense that the fact that a petition's brought, if you have to, in your opinion, reject its presentation because of a lack of authority granted by the legislature, I think it would make a lot of sense, because I don't know that maybe there are people out there that oppose the concept of preventing a hazardous waste or putting up guidelines to prevent hazardous waste before it happens. I don't think generally people feel that way, but it would make sense for the board, I think, to at least develop some sort of communication to the legislature that this is a matter that that you might feel as a board ought to be within your scope of authority. And I would just say that as someone who, having been a legislator, listened to a lot of constituents and agencies bring forward their concerns in order to enable them, their concerns to be acted on. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to try to stick with the board. Mr. Bitzer, do you have any further comments?
Note on page 3 of the analysis that the state's Renewable Energy Transmission Authority currently has statutory authority to plan, finance, develop, and acquire high voltage transmission lines and storage projects. Energy, Mineral, and Natural Resources Analysis notes it is unclear how the bill's new requirements would align with RETA's existing statutory goals and obligations. So I think there was, and a bunch of people piled on, a bunch of organizations piled on against this bill. I see how it didn't get out of the first committee. The PRC went after it, enormous regulatory burden and so forth. Sounds like it was crafted with good intentions, but it's we're opening such a can of worms, putting a new technology out there in an existing regulatory framework that didn't consider it, didn't contemplate it. So I think it looks like everyone lauds the goal of getting this regulated in a cohesive manner. It's just the way it was drafted. It looked like the 5 megawatt threshold was going to be onerous, and by the same token, I hate to let this swelter fester for another year until the legislature comes around, and there's no guarantee that they'll get around to fixing it then either. So I'm not averse to being overruled by a court ultimately. So it's like wouldn't be the first time. So But so I'd rather go ahead and move forward on this. Maybe in the process we can help, even if we don't withstand court scrutiny. We can help work through the nettle of issues that are hamstringing this well-intentioned piece of legislation. So yeah, when you're the chair of a committee and you can't even get it out of your own committee, and it was Stefanik, Senator Stefanik's on the other side sponsoring as well. So a veteran lawmaker with some excellent insights. So yeah, I just soon go forward myself, but that's
Vice Chair Sweeney.
Good morning again, everybody, and thank you. I've been pulling up similar documents and the references, and then I feel like I would be that I need to share a little bit. I don't know if the board, my fellow board members know, I also sit on the RETA board. Uh, um, so, um, and so one of the unique things, and hearing the concerns by the community, and we're all collectively, the world, we're all trying to find new solutions. I know we just had the PFAS hearing. Back in the 80s and 90s, I had a nice Gore-Tex jacket. I didn't know it was full of PFAS back then. I do a lot of cooking, so I'm always wary of like how do we continue to move forward, but really analyzing the full circle of things. And one of the things I think is really interesting, and maybe something I can share in the perspective today is, federal, state governments are very siloed, right? We talk about water quality over here, water quantity over here, hazardous waste over here, and different, renewable energy over here. I can say, I looked at that analysis. So RETA does have an authority to help support these projects, support projects in general, renewable energy projects. I'll say that. But RETA doesn't regulate, doesn't set up rules and regulations for the project. So again, we're looking at different silos here. So to what you were saying, Member Bitzer, and I don't know if this would be some thoughts, and I appreciate the community members bringing this this issue up, and how we as a state navigate this. Again, understanding that there are projects that deal with this type of technology. So I don't know, legal counsel or NMAD counsel, how I'm hearing Member Bitzer saying like let's push this a little further. Yeah, how do we navigate this? Because as it was shared, it is an issue. Is it something that NMED could, just like what happened with PFAS, it became something that that NMED took up and developed rules and regulations and proposed rules and regulations that we looked at. I don't know what the process is. What that would be an efficient process. So I guess maybe I'm sending out a question to the parties and maybe to our legal counsel as well, what that would look like.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. So I think from a strictly legal perspective, it was pointed out earlier that, and I think you've been part of this, where if a party is not happy with a decision or an order by the EIB, one of the things they challenge is that they exceeded their statutory authority. And that's in cases, for example, where you have the PFAS Act that explicitly says the EIB will promulgate rules with respect to the PFAS Act. Here, you're missing that statute altogether. So I think certainly you can take action But if there's no statutory basis, I think again, as with your experience, you've seen where you have the statement of reasons and all of that steps through the whole process where you give the basis for that action the board took. And when the board wouldn't have any statute to cite, they would just say they did it on their own. And I think that does expose the decision to risk.
Thank you, Mr. Ugarte. So let me think a little bit here, gather my thoughts. Thanks.
My concern is if we accept the petition and go through the rulemaking process, there's a lot of resources involved in doing that. When I firmly believe in what our counsel is saying, both from the department and our own counsel from the Attorney General's office, that there is no statutory authority to do it, I think it would be a waste of time. But I agree there's a need, and I appreciate the public coming forward to try and address the need. I do believe the thing to do would be to go back to the legislature and give the board clear authority to do it. Because right now I just don't think we have it. Member Bitzer.
I recall that there was a case law referenced. One of you in the fifth row had mentioned that there was case law in 1975. I think. Could you come forward and share that specifically for council so he can
go ahead, Ms.
take a look
O'Dowd.
at it? Because I mean, case law is valid. This is a common law country, so.
I'll just say it's right there in the annotations under the statute.
Yeah, it's part of their submission.
Okay.
So, you want me to make sure I can. Okay, other annotations are there, so scroll through and you'll see that that's there. I've circled it in ink on the first page, so then you'll see the case law name.
Member Curry.
Can we ask the council for the department to come back up, please?
Mr. Smith here, please.
Thank you. I appreciate the remarks you made on behalf of the department. Just some clarification. As secretary, you know the secretary's feelings on this? I mean, is there something that, say for the last session, the short session, did he take something to the governor asking for her to put it on the call?
Madam Chair, Member Curry, I do not know what the secretary's position is.
But does this make you uncomfortable as legal counsel if we move forward on this?
Well, Madam Chair, Member Curry, I will echo what Mr. Ugarte said with respect to the fact that without an enabling act, in my legal opinion, it would be susceptible to being overturned. He mentioned the PFAS Protection Act, which we, recently did a rulemaking on. There was clear authority there, and we were still met with quite a bit of opposition. So that's my.
Has the department, either through the council or through the hazardous waste, has there been much research that has been done by the department in this area at all?
Madam Chair, Member Curry, I don't know.
Any other discussion before I ask for a motion to vote on the petition? Mr. Ugarte?
So Member Bitzer asked a question, and I just want to make sure everybody's clear. New Mexico courts have been very clear that public bodies are creatures of statutory creation. And so while there may be case law that talks to specific issues, and I'm not familiar, that one case from 75, the when courts decide whether a public body acted appropriately, it looks to the statute. And in here, 7418, it lists a series of what are called board duties. And if the board acts outside the scope of what's listed as a duty, I think that's just a black letter law where it's going to be found against the statute.
Having worked with the Environmental Improvement Act and all the rules related to the Environmental Improvement Act over the years, I would not be comfortable moving forward with a rule that where we don't have clear statutory authority to act on it. Member Curry.
Madam Chair, I would agree with that. And my concern is not the validity of the issue, which I think is correct. The concern is correct. My concern is the credibility of this board if we move forward on something where we clearly don't have the authority. And then if sometime later we have the authority, I think our credibility has been reduced, even though the issue is of concern.
Member Bitzer.
Can we call on folks who've already spoken up and
You know
see what they have to say?
I want to keep it to the petitioners right now. So Ms. O'Dowd, if she has something to offer, that's fine, but I don't want to open it up to the general public at this point. We had our opportunity for public comment.
So I can speak. Thank you. I don't know if I should call you guys chair or what, if I'm being rude. So they had the they asked the PRC, which wasn't clearly appropriate, instead of the EIB, and never mentioned the EIB in the fiscal analysis or in the bill, which led us all down a different road. I'm in court also with Sandoval County on there, as you can tell. So now 2026 came along and there was no replacement bill. There was no, okay, now what were we thinking? We need to go to the EIB and we need to focus, not have this bill that's all over the place, this many watts, that many watts. Focus on keeping New Mexicans safe, keeping the environment safe according to the Environmental Improvement Act. Right now, this is neglecting the Environmental Improvement Act. It's neglecting the wealth and health and safety of New Mexico. So now, when I found this, I was like, oh my God, this is great. Okay, and it is, right? So now I'm finding there's a thing that I didn't understand. No surprise, I'm not an attorney. But my question to you is, if you vote against this today, so I see two paths. One, you agree to work on rules informally and suggest those to the legislature, and that this is a clear and present danger. And even in our, I can't remember the document, but in the environmental improvement stuff put out by the governor, it's always called solar farm and storage, which obfuscates entirely these issues. Oh, a farm is always good, right? It's safe. A solar farm? Oh, renewable energy, we're there. A solar farm and storage is concerning us as to hiding these things and putting them on private ranches for development purposes, not for environmental purposes, or both. In any case, So what I'm asking you is for help with the next step, because there is no way I'm going to drop this. And I don't know what my next step is. I was wishing that. So if you guys could put something together informally and say, and recommend it to the legislature, recommend it to the governor for an executive order. This is serious. It is so serious.
Ms. O'Donnell, I think you've made the case that there is a problem that needs to be addressed, and I appreciate that. And the public comment has made the case that there's a problem that needs to be addressed. We just don't have the clear direction from the legislature to do that. And we don't develop, the board here doesn't develop rules. We listen to what's been brought before us. So, and I think until we have clear authority from the legislature saying Environmental Improvement Board adopt rules related to LIBES, I don't think we can really move forward with it. At least that's my opinion. But what we'll do in just a moment is get a motion from the board and vote on whether we take up this petition.
And there's no appeal process or anything like that, I guess is what I was asking.
Council, what happens if we decide not to take up a petition? What do they have recourse on that?
Madam Chair, no, that decision's final.
Nope. we're gonna try and wrap this up. Is there any other comments or questions from the board right now? Can I entertain a motion on whether to take up EIB 26-17 BEPS? Member Curry, would you like to make a motion? Or not take it up? Yeah, either way.
I move to take up the petition.
So there's a motion to take up the petition.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Just to be clear, take up means grant. Okay.
Okay. Pam, will you do a roll call vote on that?
Yes, Chair Ely, how do you vote?
No.
Vice Chair Sweeney?
Yes.
Member Bitzer?
I'll vote yes.
Member Curry?
No.
So it fails, right?
That's correct, Madam Chair.
Right. So the motion fails as a tie. Yeah. All right. So I'm sorry, we're done with this agenda item. Thank you very much for coming forward.
Our state legislature is very slowly
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to suggest we take a 10-minute break and come back at 10:10 or 10 in 10 minutes. Yeah. All right, let's get settled in and move on to item number 6 of the agenda. Ms. Napolitano, are you ready for EIB 2624 in the matter of proposed amendments to 20.5.101 NMAC through 20.5.120 NMAC, 20.5.122 NMAC, and 20.5.124 NMAC petroleum storage tank regulations? Please go ahead.
Morning, Chair Ely, members of the board. My name is Mia Napolitano, Assistant General Counsel for the New Mexico Environment Department. And I also have with me Tom Pricka, who's Assistant General Counsel for the department, and Michael Ortiz, who is the Bureau Chief for the Petroleum Storage Tank Bureau within the department, and Joe Godwin, who's the Manager for the Prevention Inspection Program for the Bureau within the department. And we're here before you today because the Bureau has proposed numerous amendments to various parts As you mentioned, 20.5.101 through 20.5.120, 20.5.122, and 20.5.124 of the New Mexico Administrative Code, or NMAC. And the Bureau's using this opportunity to align the regulations with the Bureau's current business practices, update the regulations with new requirements governing the operation and maintenance of storage tank systems, inserting new requirements for repairs, replacements, and modifications of storage tank systems, updating the notification requirements prior to performing tank tests, and adding some new fees. The board has the authority to adopt the proposed amendments, and the Bureau filed a petition for regulatory change on March 16th, 2026. And in that petition, we requested a hearing for October of 2026. I think we said September or October. We would now like to look at October. And also based on some of the comments we received after we filed the petition, we would like to request 4 days. I think in the petition we said 3 days, but we would like to request 4 days now. Also, due to the amount of the proposed amendments and parts, we would also like to request to have a hearing officer to oversee this rulemaking proceeding. The Bureau is also proposing amendments to Part 123, so 20.5.123, but that part is under the department's rulemaking authority. And Felicia Orth has already been appointed as hearing officer for that part. So we would like to request the board if they could appoint Felicia Orth also as a hearing officer for these other parts, since they are all related. And ideally, we could have both hearings in October.
Ms. Napolitano, what's 123? What part of the act or of the rules is that she's already a hearing officer on?
What's the name of the part?
Yes. It doesn't matter. I just said she was already appointed, and I was trying to refresh my memory as to what that was.
What is the name of Part 123? Sorry, let me pull that up. Oh, the Corrective Action Fund Administration. Yeah.
Corrective Action Fund.
Yes.
So what kind of, my first question is, what kind of public interest have you had? Do you anticipate a lot of opposition? And is that why you're requesting 3 instead of 4 days?
I mean, I'd say at this point we haven't had a lot of opposition. But we are proposing so many amendments to so many different parts. So I just want to make sure we have enough time. And then I'd say the one comment we have received is some questioning our authority on delivery prohibition, where we red tag tanks. So we have received a comment about that. And then we plan to do significant public outreach in May. And so based on that, we might receive more public comments.
Does the board have any questions for Ms. Napolitano? No. Vice Chair Sweeney, do you have any questions of the department on this petition? Member Kerr?
So also, you're asking for 4 days?
Yes.
Kind of elaborate on that.
I mean, I think we can probably get through our part within 1 to 2 days, but due to all the changes, I just want to make sure there's enough time for public comment. And if anyone files entry of appearance or files a notice of intent, I want to make sure that there's enough time for them to present their cases.
Do you anticipate a lot of opposition? I know you've got a good crystal ball.
I think there might be some. I don't know if there'll be other parties yet, but again, just because of we did add some new fees, I could potentially see opposition towards that. And then again, I think we're proposing amendments to about 21 parts or 22 parts. It's a lot of parts. So
when was the last time these were changed?
It was 2018. 2018. And that was due to federal changes, so we had to update.
Is there still a fund?
Corrective Action Fund?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's funded by the legislature every year?
No, is it funded by the
The
legislature?
Corrective Action Fund, actually.
Oh.
The Corrective Action Fund is funded through the tax and rev. It is at $150 per 8,000 gallon tank load in the stations. They provide in the order of 1 to 1.6 million per month. And that fund is actually now under the Department of Environment control. And they use it basically for the Petroleum Storage Tank Bureau and for several other bureaus to fund them in dealing with groundwater protection rules.
I look forward to that hearing, just activating some scars.
Get a little PTSD on that. Pam, I think you said Miss Orth would be available as hearing officer in October. What days would she be available?
She is available. I'll refresh my memory, Mia, if I get it wrong from what we talked about yesterday. Mid to late October. Later the better. And there was a week, the week of October 19th, where we do have the EIB meeting on the 23rd, that Friday. That's potentially one that might work, but certainly the end of the week. I believe she finishes the triennial review the beginning of October. She has some family stuff going on the next couple of weeks.
For me, it'd be better the last week of October, the week of the 26th. Do we have a motion to, well, let's maybe settle on dates and then make a motion to move forward, adopt the petition and set the dates. Vice Chair Sweeney, what's your calendar look like for October?
Thank you. I'm looking, trying to get that far ahead. Give me a moment. Let's see. And what days were we all looking?
I was suggesting the last week, and hearing officer Orr thought later in the month would be better for her.
Yeah, that week will be okay.
Works for Member Bitzer and Member Curry. I see you nodding your head. Okay. Do we have a motion to adopt the petition assigning hearing officer Orth and setting a 4-day hearing beginning on October 26th?
I'll adopt that as my motion.
And Member Curry second that. Pam, would you do a roll call vote on that?
Yes. Member Bitzer, your vote?
I vote yes.
And Member Curry, your vote?
Yes.
Vice Chair Sweeney?
Yes.
Thank you. And Chair Ely,
Yes,
the motion passes.
great. Thank you so much. Good to see you both.
Just to clarify, would it start at 9 a.m.? I'm just wondering if the public notice at 9 a.m.
Yeah, and work with Pam on locate. Do you have the location nailed down right now too? You'll work with Miss Napolitano.
Ms. Napolitano, yeah,
Okay.
I'm on notice.
Great.
Thanks.
All right, so moving on to agenda item number 7, EIB 25-32, public hearing in the matter of proposed amendments to 7.6.2 NMAC, food service and food processing, with member Barry Bitzer as the hearing officer. Member Bitzer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This hearing will please come to order. Today is Friday, April 24, 2026. The time is now 10:26. My name is Barry Bitzer. I've been designated by the board to serve as the hearing officer, and I will be advised by the board's counsel, the New Mexico Department of Justice, Eduardo Ugarte. May we have a roll call of the board, please?
Yes. Chair Ely, are you present?
Present.
And Vice Chair Sweeney, present?
Yes, present.
Member Curry?
Present.
Member Carrasco? Absent. And Member Bitzer?
I'm here.
Very good. You have a quorum,
Thank you.
hearing officer.
This is a hearing in EIB 25-32R to consider the proposed amendments to 7.6.2 NMAC food service and food process. Petitioner in this matter is the State of New Mexico Environment Department, Environmental Health Division. No party filed notice of appearance. Members of the public may present statements or non-technical testimony at, what's a good time? What time is it now? How long do y'all anticipate needing to go?
Our presentation will take about an hour.
So we'll say at 11:30. This hearing will be conducted in accordance with the Open Meetings Act, the State Rules Act, the Environmental Improvement Act, and with the board's rulemaking procedures. This hearing is being reported by Mr. Lee from Cumbre Court Reporting Services. Parties interested in obtaining a copy of the transcript may contact the court reporter directly at the conclusion of the hearing. Did I get that right, Mr. Lee? Good. Copies of the proposed amendments have been available on the department's website and the department's office, as well as to interested parties on request. The hearing will be conducted in a fair and impartial manner to assure that the relevant facts are fully elicited and to provide reasonable opportunity for all persons to be heard without making the hearing unreasonably lengthy or burdening the record with unnecessary repetition. The rules of civil procedure and evidence shall not apply to this hearing. As hearing officer, I will make such orders as may be necessary to preserve decorum and to protect the orderly hearing process. To that end, I ask that all persons at this hearing please silence their cell phones. If appearing virtually, please be sure to mute yourself until you wish to speak to help minimize background noise. The hearing shall proceed as follows. 1, board staff will present pre-filed exhibits. Exhibits admitted into evidence are available for review by the public. All testimony will be taken under oath. As hearing officer, I will rule on any objections to evidence and will admit any relevant evidence unless I determine that the evidence is incompetent or unduly repetitious. Any person who wishes to make a brief opening statement before presentation of his or her direct testimony may do so. How's my pace right now, Mr. Lee? Are you holding up with me? Okay. Petitioner will present its direct testimony on the proposed amendments, and petitioner's witnesses may stand for cross-examination by the board and any other person in attendance. Any other person, including members of the public, wish to present non-technical testimony about the proposed amendments, they may testify as called upon. If you are a member of the public, please email the board's administrator at pamela.jones@state.nm.us. That's pamela.jones@state.nm.us, and notify us that you intend to present non-technical testimony, including exhibits being offered. Because this hearing is being transcribed, please remember that only one person may speak at any one time. Please direct your testimony and answers to questions to the board members. A person who testifies is subject to cross-examination, the subject matter of his or her testimony, and on matters affecting his or her credibility. The petitioner has the option of presenting its witnesses as a panel for the purposes of cross-examination. Cross-examination by other party will be conducted at the conclusion of each presentation, followed by questions by the board members and the hearing officer, followed any questions by the public. Please remember to direct all testimony and answers to questions to the board itself, even if someone other than the board member is asked to witness a question. Any persons attending the hearing is entitled to conduct whatever cross-examination is required for a full and true disclosure of matters at issue in the hearing. Hearing officer, I may limit cross-examination to avoid harassment, intimidation, needless expenditure of time, or undue repetition. At the petitioner's discretion, and if time permits, rebuttal testimony may be given, and any conclusion of the public testimony in the same order as direct testimony. Any person who wishes to make a brief closing argument may do so at the conclusion of the hearing in the same order as the direct testimony. We will now proceed. Does the board staff have any exhibits to introduce as evidence?
I do not.
All right. Are there any questions from the board members or objections?
Not at this time.
Exhibits 1 through 23 are admitted to the record. If there are no other preliminary matters, we will move testimony by the petitioner. We will begin with technical testimony by the petitioner. Does the petitioner wish to make a brief opening statement?
Yes.
I have identified Marcy Navarez.
Yes.
Okay. As the technical witness, please stand so that we may administer an oath. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Yes, good morning, Hearing Officer Bitzer, Chair Ely, members of the board. My name is Deanna Napolitano, Assistant General Counsel for the New Mexico Environment Department. And with me is Andrew Knight, who is also Assistant General Counsel for the department. We're here because the food program within the Environmental Health Bureau.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Oh.
Ms. Napolitano, can I get you to also swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes, I do.
Proceed.
So we're here because the food program within the Environmental Health Bureau has proposed amendments to 7.6.2 of the New Mexico Administrative Code, or NMAC. The amendments consist of general updating in order to reflect the Bureau's current business practices and the addition and increase of certain fees. The addition of new fees and increase in existing fees is necessary for the Bureau to operate their program and fulfill their statutory duties. The new fees are, for the most part, either one-time fees or only apply if a facility is out of compliance. And the fee increases are reasonable and comparable to nearby states. And the Bureau will also provide greater detail on our proposed revisions in just a bit. There have been some changes to the proposed rules since we filed the petition on June 12, 2025. And those changes have been incorporated into NMED Exhibit 1, the department's notice of intent filed on March 25, 2026. So NMED Exhibit 1 contains the final rule that the Bureau plans to submit to state records and archives. And the Bureau will also explain what those changes are in their testimony. So we have one witness with us today. This is Marcy Navarez. She's Bureau Chief of the Environmental Health Bureau, and she's responsible for the general management of the Bureau and oversight of the food. So Marcy Navarez, Bureau Chief of the Environmental Health Bureau, and she's responsible for the general management of the Bureau. and oversight of the food program. With that, we'll start with our testimony. So please state your name for the record.
Marcy Nevadas.
Where are you currently employed?
I'm employed with the New Mexico Environment Department out of the Las Cruces field office.
How long have you been employed by the New Mexico Environment Department?
For 23 years.
And what is your current position within the New Mexico Environment Department?
I'm at the Environmental Health Bureau Chief.
How long have you held that position?
For the last 6 months.
And can you please describe your typical duties and responsibilities in your position?
This position provides the executive leadership and supervision for more than 89 current employees within the Environmental Health Bureau, overseeing the administration of permitting, inspections, and enforcement activities for the Bureau's 3 core programs. Those programs are food safety, aquatic, and on-site wastewater systems. We direct wastewater systems. We direct the Bureau's operation to ensure regulatory compliance, program effectiveness, and efficient service delivery, while managing the performance and strategic direction of our programs that are responsible for issuing almost 18,500 permits a year.
And have you held other positions with the Environmental Health Bureau or any other positions at the department?
Yes. I started back in 2003 as an inspector in the Las Cruces office. From there in 2007, I was promoted to food specialist. In 2011, I was promoted to staff manager and then food program manager in 2023. And then I got this position last year.
And did you pre-file your resume in this matter as NMED Exhibit 2 on March 25th, 2026?
Yes.
Did you pre-file written technical testimony in this matter as NMED Exhibit 3 on March 25th, 2026?
Yes.
And would you like to make any changes or corrections to your pre-filed written technical testimony?
No.
Do you adopt your pre-filed written technical testimony filed on March 25th, 2026?
Yes.
And could you please explain to the board why the Bureau is proposing amendments to 7.6.2 NMAC?
Yes. The purpose of these proposed rule changes is to update the department's food program regulations so they remain current, clear, and effective in supporting the department's responsibilities to protect public health and safety. These amendments include removing outdated provisions, aligning state requirements with current federal standards, clarifying existing regulatory language, and updating the fee structure to reflect the actual cost of administering the program. Several of the proposed revisions are administrative in nature, are intended to improve consistency within the rule, remove obsolete language, and ensure that the state regulations reflect current statutory and federal requirements. These updates will improve clarity for both the department and the regulated community. In addition, the proposed fee updates are necessary to address the increasing costs of administrating permitting, inspection, compliance, and plan review activities across the Bureau. Many of the current fees have remained unchanged for over 20 years and no longer reflect the actual cost associated with providing these services. With the past unsuccessful attempts at addressing fee structure, the department has structured its general fund appropriation request to favor the environmental health program. The program has more FY26 general fund per FTE count compared to the other programs in the department. With a limited funding portfolio and inherent statutory limitations, the department's unable to fund program operations. Prisons, childcare facilities, senior centers, and schools run the risk of inadequate inspections resulting from the limitations of the insufficiently funded program. Without these adjustments, the department's ability to maintain adequate staffing levels and continue providing consistent regulatory oversight to protect public health will be significantly impacted at the detriment of the people of New Mexico. These proposed amendments are intended to ensure that the Environmental Health Bureau can continue to effectively carry out its statutory obligations and maintain essential public health functions and provide fair and consistent services to the regulated community.
And how did the Bureau inform the members of the public and the stakeholders of the proposed changes to 7.6.2 NMAC?
Public notice of the hearing was published in English and Spanish in 3 newspapers of general circulation: in the Albuquerque Journal on October 10th, the Santa Fe New Mexican on October 10th, and the Las Cruces Sun News on October 10th, and in the New Mexico Register on October 7th. Public notice of the hearing was also posted in English and Spanish on the board's website and the Sunshine portal. It was also provided to the New Mexico Legislative Council for distribution, made available to the department's field offices, and emailed to the appropriate parties such as the Food Programs Listserv, email listserv, and the Restaurant Association. We also had 6 public outreach events that we held across the state in Santa Fe, Roswell, Farmington, Las Cruces, Clovis, and Albuquerque.
And were these public notices pre-filed as NMAC exhibits 5 through 7?
Yes.
Did the Bureau receive comments or concerns from the members of the public or stakeholders regarding the rulemaking?
Yes, during the public comment period, Exhibit 21 does show the 7 comments that were received online using the comment portal. Of those 7 comments, 5 requested that 7.6.2 NMAC be updated to align to the current U.S. Food and Drug Administration Food Code. We're currently on the 2016 Food Code. The department acknowledges these comments and does intend to pursue separate rulemaking process later to address and incorporate the updated FDA Food Code. Additional comments raised from the public meeting focused on concerns regarding unpermitted food vendors and a desire for increased enforcement activities by the department. The comments reflect ongoing public interest in ensuring a level regulatory playing field and maintaining protection for the public health and safety. There were also 2 comments from the online portal, comments from the Restaurant Association, and 4 additional comments received on the online portal after our exhibits were filed. These comments expressed opposition to the proposed fees increases, citing concerns about the financial impact on the industry. The department recognizes these concerns. However, the proposed fee adjustments are necessary to ensure long-term sustainability of the food program. The updated fee structure is intended to provide the resources required to maintain staffing levels, support inspection and compliance activities, and strengthen enforcement efforts that protect public health.
And have there been any changes to the proposed amendments to 7.6.2 NMAC since you filed the petition on June 12th, 2025?
Yes, we did have 2 changes. One, we did remove the definition of catering, as that was already defined within the definition of food establishment. So we didn't need the duplication. The other change was we did change the effective date. Of course, as you know, we were supposed to have this last October. So the effective date was going to be January 1st of 26. We've since updated that to October 1st of 2026.
And can you now please provide a summary of the proposed substantive changes to 7.6.2 NMAC?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So one change is the adoption of 21 CFR Part 117, subparts A, B, and F. The title of the CFR is Current Good Manufacturing Practices, Hazard Analysis, and Risk-Based Preventive Controls for Human Food. These are the standards currently used by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and by most states to regulate manufactured food processors. Adoption of these provisions would align New Mexico's requirements with the most current science-based standards for manufactured food processing across the United States. At present, the department permits approximately 150 manufactured food facilities statewide. The department issues 2 primary types of annual food permits. The first is a retail food permit and only applies to establishments that serve food directly to the consumer, including restaurants, mobiles, and schools. The second is our manufactured food processing permit, which applies to facilities that package food for wholesale distribution to grocery stores, convenience stores, or restaurants for resale. This change only affects this type of permit, the manufactured food processing permit. Adoption of these subparts by reference will further align the department's food program with federal requirements and with surrounding states that have adopted these subparts by reference or created rules that align with them. Adoption of the federal law further standardizes the requirements for operators inspected by the department and the FDA, particularly those operating in multiple states that must comply with consistent regulatory standards. This also allows the department to closely align with ongoing national integrated food safety initiatives. Adoption of the proposed CFR will not significantly alter the requirements these permit holders must meet to remain in compliance with the rule, as they already have to meet the same rule through FDA regulation. The next part is the term adulterated and misbranded is already defined in 7.6.27. This is the definition sections of the rule. As a result, it's unnecessary to repeat those definitions again in section 7.6.2, B2 and 3. In section 7.6.211E2, the language describing how to obtain registration and processing forms from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has been removed. This information was outdated and no longer accurately reflects the current FDA registration process. Section 7.6.2.14 was updated to incorporate the most current version of the National Shellfish Sanitation Program, or NSSP guide. These requirements apply only to 6 establishments across New Mexico that ship shellfish across state lines. Because those establishments are already required by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to comply with the current NSSP guide, this update will not impose any new operational requirements. Rather, it ensures the rule remains consistent with federal standards. Section 7.6.2.15, related to home-based food processing, has been removed in its entirety. This change is necessary due to the enactment of the Homemade Food Act. That's under NMSA 25-12. This became effective on July 1st of 2021. The Homemade Food Act authorizes individuals in New Mexico to prepare certain low-risk foods in their home and sell those products directly to the consumer without obtaining a permit from the department. These foods are defined as non-time temperature control for safety foods, or non-TCS foods. Prior to the passage of this act, the department permitted and inspected these home-based food processors under the existing rule. However, with the enactment of the Homemade Food Act, these same operations are now authorized to operate without permitting or inspection by the department. Because the department no longer has permitting authority over these operations, the provisions governing home-based food processing are no longer applicable and are being removed from this rule. The final portion of the proposed rule amendments involved updating existing fees and establishing additional fees necessary to support the Bureau's operation. The Environmental Health Bureau is currently operating under significant fiscal constraints that threatens its ability to maintain current service levels and meet statutory obligations. If fully staffed, the Bureau is projected to face an approximate $2.4 million funding shortfall in fiscal year 2027. As a result of this shortfall, the Bureau has been unable to fill vacancies. This has significantly increased workload on existing staff and placed additional strain on program operations. To address this gap, the department is proposing adjustments to the fee structure. The Bureau relies heavily on general fund appropriations, with the remaining operational costs supported through fee revenue. In recent years, employee compensation increases have been approved without sufficient reoccurring funding to fully cover these costs, further increasing the reliance on fee revenue. As mentioned above, the department favored the program in its request for reoccurring general fund. In addition, changes to the employee benefit contributions, including those through the recent Senate Bill 376, has increased the employer's share of benefit cost. While these changes have provided important support for employee recruitment, and retention, the funding provided has not been sufficient to offset the resulting financial impact on the Bureau. The Bureau has also experienced rising operational costs due to inflation. These increased costs affect all aspects of the Bureau's work, including payroll, employee benefits, inspection equipment, vehicles, fuel, and the database used to manage permitting and fee collection. To absorb these increases, the Bureau has had to reduce operational expenditures in order to meet payroll and related benefits obligations. Currently, staff are unable to use vehicles to conduct inspections due to the need to move funds into our payroll. Current permit fees have not been updated since 2004, and other related fees have not changed since 2016. During the last 3 legislative sessions, the department pursued statutory fee increases. However, those efforts were unsuccessful. In 2025, the department postponed this rulemaking process to allow additional time to pursue budget increases through the legislative process. In an effort that received support from the industry, stakeholders, and the New Mexico Restaurant Association. Despite that support, the requested budget increase was reduced during the executive recommendation process and further reduced in the final legislative finance recommendation. As a result, the department must proceed with the proposed fee updates in order to preserve essential program functions, maintain regulatory oversight, and continue meeting the Bureau's statutory responsibilities that have a significant impact on the safety of New Mexico residents. Currently, the Bureau is projected to operate with a vacancy rate of approximately 20 to 30% to balance its budget. 6 positions have been eliminated due to prolonged deficit-related vacancies. 6 positions are currently vacant, and approximately 20 additional positions must remain unfilled before the hiring freeze can be lifted. In the last year, the Bureau processed 18,802 permits across its primary 3 programs: food, on-site wastewater, and aquatic. At present, the Bureau only has 35 environmental scientists responsible for processing permits, conducting inspections of these regulated facilities. This equates to an average workload of about 537 permits per inspector annually. Under this rule, the Bureau is required to conduct at least 1 annual inspection of each permitted food establishment. With current staff constraints, the Bureau's ability to meet this requirement is significantly impacted. Reduced inspection capacity limits the Bureau's ability to provide consistent regulatory oversight and will increase the risk to public health and safety. The majority of these fees proposed in this rule only apply to facilities that are not in compliance with the regulations or that request services related to specific regulatory actions. These proposed fees are based on the department's estimated costs associated with performing these actions.
How did the Bureau develop the fee structure?
Exhibit 18 shows the cost analysis used to develop the proposed fees, which includes the direct costs associated with inspector time, administrative support time, information technology resources, equipment, and vehicle use. In developing the fee structure, the department used a conservative cost analysis and did not include all indirect costs that support these services, such as broader financial and information technology supports functions, even though those resources can also contribute to the department's operational costs. As a result, the proposed fees reflect only a portion of the department's actual costs, while still providing a reasonable basis for recovering expenses associated with these regulatory actions.
And please describe the different types of fees the Bureau is proposing.
The first proposed fees is a variance fee. Section 7.6.28 12B provides this fee would be required at the time a variance request is submitted. Based on the department's cost analysis, the proposed variance fee would be $400. During the last calendar year, the department reviewed and approved 43 variances. This is consistent with the average number of requests that we do receive annually. The proposed fee is intended to recover the department's cost associated with reviewing and processing these requests, including staff review time, administrative support, and associated operational costs. Most variances involve equipment that does not meet ANSI or commercial standards. Current regulations do require that ANSI certified equipment to ensure that equipment is used in commercial food establishments is designed and approved for its intended use, thereby supporting sanitation and food safety requirements. Another common basis for variance requests involves a certified food protection manager requirement. The regulations generally require each permitted establishment to have its own certified manager. However, a variance may be granted to allow one certified manager to oversee multiple locations when the department does determine that adequate oversight can still be maintained. This is most commonly requested by businesses operating multiple establishments within the same geographical area. The next proposed fee is a reinspection fee. This fee would be applied only when a facility requires a follow-up inspection due to an elevated number of priority violations or repeated violations identified during a routine inspection or an inspection. Based on the department's cost analysis for conducting inspections, the proposed reinspection fee is $500. During the last calendar year, the Bureau conducted approximately 315 reinspections out of our 10,500 inspections we did. Reinspections are not routine. They are scheduled only when inspection findings indicate violations of a nature or severity that could increase the risk of foodborne illness if not promptly corrected. Facilities that are found to be in compliance during inspections would not be subject to this fee. The proposed fee only applies when additional department resources are required to verify that serious violations have been corrected. The rules language also revised to clarify that reinspection fees may also be assessed for priority violations, which is our highest risk violation, as well as repeated priority foundation or core violations, when those violations warrant additional regulatory follow-up. The proposed fee ensures the cost of follow-up inspections is put on facilities requiring additional compliance attention rather than by facilities that remain in compliance. Also supporting the department's ability to address conditions that may pose a risk to public health. The next proposed fee is a late fee, which would be assessed only when a facility fails to pay its permit fee by the required due date. Based on the department's cost analysis, the proposed late fee is $175. When permit fees are not paid on time, additional staff time is required to issue follow-up notices, contact the facility, and track these outstanding balances. These administrative efforts create costs for the department beyond those associated with routine permit processing. To provide adequate notice, invoices are sent to the facility's billing contact by mail or email 45 days before the payment is due. If payment is made by the due date, no late fee is assessed. If the permit fee and late fee remain unpaid for 30 days after the permit expiration date, the permit is closed. At that point, the facility must reapply through a plan review process and pay the applicable plan review fees, permit fees, before a new permit can be issued. The proposed late fee is intended to recover the department's additional administrative cost associated with delinquent payments and to encourage timely renewals, while ensuring that facilities do pay on time, are not burdened with these additional costs. The proposed rule amendments also establish administrative compliance costs to allow the department to recover expenses associated with enforcement actions. These cases often require substantial staff time for investigation, follow-up, documentation, coordination with legal counsel, and case management. In many situations, the department's enforcement options are limited to issuing notices of violation and pursuing compliance orders, both of which require significant staff resources. The purpose of these compliance costs is to recover the department's actual costs associated with addressing violations and to encourage timely correction of noncompliance. Prompt correction of violation reduces the need for prolonged enforcement actions, limits the accumulation of additional penalties, and supports the department's effort to protect public health and safety. During the public meeting held on the proposed rule amendments, one of the primary concerns raised by the stakeholders involved unpermitted food vendors. These operations create an uneven burden on permitted establishments that comply with the regulatory requirements and pay the required fees. In addition, unpermitted vendors present a public health risk because they are operating without regulatory oversight. Investigating unpermitted operations requires significant staff time to identify the vendor, issue notices of violation, conduct follow-up inspections or contacts, and when necessary, coordinate with the Office of General Counsel to pursue compliance orders. These enforcement actions involve multiple levels of department staff and require resources beyond routine inspections and permitting. These proposed administrative compliance costs would be assessed based on the time spent by the department staff in investigating and resolving these enforcement matters. This approach ensures that the costs associated with enforcement are paid by the non-compliant operators, creating the need for the action, rather than by compliant permitted establishments or the public. The final proposed fee involves plan review fees. Plan review is a resource-intensive process that requires substantial staff time before a facility may begin operation. When a plan review application is submitted, staff must first review the application for completeness. If required information is missing, staff work directly with the applicant to obtain the additional materials necessary to proceed. Once the application is complete, staff conduct a pre-opening inspection to verify the facility is progressing towards compliance and to identify any remaining items that must be addressed before operation can begin. In some cases, more than one pre-opening inspection is required before a permit can be issued. Before a facility may open, an opening inspection is conducted to confirm that the establishment is in compliance with the regulatory requirements. After the facility begins operation, an additional inspection is generally conducted within the first 30 days to observe food handling practices and operational activities that may not be evident during the opening inspection. The proposed plan review fees are based on the square footage of the operational areas that are subject to inspection, such as kitchen areas, food storage areas, and warewashing areas. This sliding fee scale was developed to create a more equitable fee structure so that smaller establishments are not charged the same amount as significantly larger operations. Areas not routinely subject to inspections, such as dining rooms, are not included in the square footage calculation. Under the proposed fee schedule, plan review fees for retail establishments would range from $300 to $900. While plan review fees for our food processing or manufacturing establishments would range from $400 to $1,400. The higher fee range for the food processing establishments reflects the additional staff time that's required to review operational plans and label reviews as part of the approval process. These fees would be paid at the time the application is submitted and are intended to recover the department's costs associated with reviewing plans, conducting inspections, and ensuring that facilities are prepared to operate in compliance with the regulations. The proposed sliding scale ensures the fees are proportionate to the size and complexity of the establishment while creating a more equitable system for regulated facilities. The proposed effective date for these amendments is October 1st of 2026. If approved, the effective date will provide the department sufficient time to notify the stakeholders of this change and to implement the necessary administrative processes associated with the new fee structure, including updating the database system used for invoicing and fee collection.
Why are these changes necessary?
The department's proposed rule amendments are necessary to ensure the Environmental Health Bureau can continue to fulfill its statutory responsibility to protect public health and safety. The proposed regulatory updates improve clarity, align state requirements with current federal standards, and remove outdated provisions that no longer reflect current law or practice. Equally important, the proposed fee adjustments are necessary to address the Bureau's ongoing fiscal challenges. Current fee levels no longer reflect the actual cost of providing permitting, inspection, and compliance services. Without these updates, the Bureau will continue to face staffing shortages that directly affect its ability to conduct required inspections and provide consistent oversight of regulated facilities throughout the state. If the Bureau continues to experience staff shortages and is unable to hire due to budget constraints, both the regulated community and the public will be adversely affected. Delays in application reviews, permit issuance, and facility openings will increase as staff workloads continue to grow. At the same time, reduced staffing will significantly limit the Bureau's ability to conduct inspections at the frequency required by the regulations. This will also reduce the department's ability to protect public health and safety. Reduced inspection frequency may also diminish public confidence that restaurants are being adequately monitored and consistently providing safe food to the consumers. This reduction in inspection capacity poses a particular risk for our vulnerable populations in facilities such as hospitals, nursing homes, daycares, and schools, where strong and essential oversight is essential. In addition, limiting staff will reduce the Bureau's ability to enforce requirements for unpermitted food vendors, creating a public health risk and placing permitted establishments at an unfair economic disadvantage. The Bureau is also responsible for coordinating food recall efforts throughout the state. Without adequate staffing, the department's ability to promptly follow up on recalls and verify that effective products have been removed from the store shelves will be compromised, increasing the risk that unsafe food products remain available to consumers. The proposed fees were developed using conservative cost analysis and are intended to recover a portion of the department's operational costs. These adjustments are necessary to preserve essential regulatory services, maintain adequate staffing levels, and ensure the department can continue carrying out its mission to protect public health and safety. For these reasons, the department respectfully asks the board's approval of the proposed rule amendments.
And what is the legal authority that the department is relying on for charging these fees?
We have the Environmental Improvement Act, NMSA 74-1, the Department of Environment Act, NMSA 9-7A, the Food Service and Sanitation Act, which is NMSA 25-1, and the New Mexico Food Act, which is NMSA 25-2.
Thank you. Hearing Officer Bitzer, members of the board, do you have any questions?
Excellent, thank you. Do the board members have any questions for the witnesses?
Could you go back again? Where I live, there's lots of folks that are operating some sort of food operation out of their home, and whether it's packaging jars or some form of making food and taking it to the growers market in Corrales, or out and out catering from their home or some sort of food. Could you kind of clarify for me what these changes will be affecting those operations? Yeah.
Yes, Member Curry. So basically, under the Homemade Food Act, the only thing allowed to be made at home is these non-time temperature controlled for safety foods. So they should only be, we only allow the making of things like bread, jams and jellies, candies, other types of low risk food items. If somebody's doing a full blown catering service where they're making barbecue and all these other things out of their home, they're most likely falling into that unpermitted food service business.
So they would need a permit.
Yes. Which we could not permit for them to do at their home.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Member Ely?
A few questions. So looking at Exhibit 18, just trying to understand how much additional revenue you would be bringing in. And it looks like it might, if I'm reading this right, about 453,000 in additional revenue with the increase in fees. Is that correct, Ms. Navarez?
Let me get to that one.
No, I'm not reading that right. So
yes, you are.
Am I reading that right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So okay. So that's not the difference between your costs and the revenue. That is the difference between what you currently bring in and what you propose to bring in under these fees.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then we've been hearing a few fee rules recently,
Right.
and some of them have adjustments for inflation, adding a consumer price index adjustment on an annual basis. I don't see that here. I'm wondering if you thought about that.
No, we didn't at this time.
Do you still have cannabis in your food program, or is that separate now?
That is its own bureau. We do have a cannabis and hemp bureau. So they are
Okay.
separate from our environmental health bureau.
So food products that include hemp would not come under this bureau, this jurisdiction?
That's correct. No, they wouldn't.
Okay. And then one of the other similar provisions in this rule that we've seen in other rules is the administrative costs for compliance.
Yes.
How do you propose, you said you propose to assess that based on time taken to say, write an administrative compliance order. How then would do you then bill the restaurant or the manufacturer for that, or what would that process look like?
What we would do through our enforcement policy, what we do is usually when we do, it's going to apply mainly to our unpermitted food vendors, because right now we have no means to recoup any of those costs. And those take so much time to try to find the vendors, to try to get them into compliance. You know, they're on the side of a road and they disappear the next day. So it's really time consuming to find these vendors, or going to people's homes where they are making the food and finding out where they are doing it. So our first process is to issue a notice of warning to these vendors to just get them warned. Maybe they didn't know they needed a permit. So at least let them know that they are required to have a permit for whatever food service they are doing. If they do not comply within the time frame we specified there, we'll move on to a notice of violation. Once we go to a notice of violation, if they still refuse to comply, then we will have to go to an administrative compliance order. In that order, we would take the staff's time up to that point and assess a fine based on staff's time to bring these people into compliance.
We've actually taken this provision out of other proposed rules because we weren't sure about the statutory authority to move forward with that. So is it clear in your statement of reasons what and the conclusion, statement of reasons where your authority comes from to assess administrative compliance costs?
I don't think our statement of reason, I don't know if we specifically mentioned that in statement of reasons. We can definitely add that in. But we are, the Department of Environment Act and Environmental Improvement Act do provide the department with the authority to promulgate whatever rules and regulations are necessary to carry out the duties of the department. The Food Service Sanitation Act and New Mexico Food Act impose a lot of duties onto the department, such as the duty to inspect, the duty to issue permits and review permit applications, the duty to ensure food facilities are in compliance with the permit, and the duty to revoke and suspend permits. There's also a duty to determine if foods are adulterated or misbranded. So in order for the department to carry out these statutory duties, as Marcy testified, we do need certain time and resources. We need certain additional resources. And so the Department of Department of Environment Act and Environmental Improvement Act provide us with that authority to adopt whatever regulations are needed to carry out those duties, or else they won't, the food program runs the risk of not being able to comply with those.
That's all for my questions right now.
Council?
And Madam Chair, so I think if you could just update the statement of reasons with just connecting those dots
Okay,
explicitly.
yeah, we can, yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going to look on the platform. Member Suena, Vice Chair.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I just have a couple of questions. And I know you went over a little bit of outreach or maybe in the submittals. What has been, can you name maybe the top 3 biggest comments from the regulated community and their concerns? And then how those were addressed in the proposed rule?
Yes. So the main comments were kind of lumped into 3 categories. As I had mentioned, one of the comments was they wanted us to update our food code to the most current FDA food code, which we stated at this time we just didn't have the resources to take on that large of a a task. So we limited it just to this for this time. We do look at trying to adopt the newest food code as we are on the 2016. So we're now already 10 years behind. So we are looking at that. We did have a few, let me see. Let me find those. I think I could address them. So 7 comments were received. 7 did say that they wanted us to align, or 5 of those requested that we did align with the food and the FDA food code. The additional comments were raised were on the unpermitted food vendors. Out during public comment, we did get a lot of comments about unpermitted food vendors and how it is unfair to our regulated community. So that was a very common complaint. Unfortunately, with our restrictions and staff and the time that we have not been able to follow up on those like we would like to. So we only have the time to focus on our statutory obligations. The final comments were around the fees. So we did get additionally this last week, they kind of came in as a bulk one comment that had around 25 or so signatures. And then we did receive 2 comments on the online portal, and then those 4 additional that had the 25 signatures, also comments from the Restaurant Association that were opposing the fees.
Thank you for that. And I think what Member Curry started asking about. So I know a lot of food vendors that I'm from some of our Pueblo communities here in New Mexico. So can you explain a little bit further how this would affect, say, a vendor that sells breakfast burritos on the Pueblo, or would it affect the food vendor if they made it on the Pueblo and then sold it like in Bernalillo, town of Bernalillo?
So yes, our authorities only over the areas we have jurisdiction. We do not have jurisdiction over tribal land. So these rules would not affect anything that occurred on tribal land. However, if somebody did take food that was made on tribal land and try to sell it within an area of our jurisdiction, then these rules may apply to them, yes.
So for those types of vendors, they do, make food in their home kitchen, they would not be able to get permitted or certified. Sorry.
So we have two things there. One, under the Homemade Food Act, they would still be able to make that non-TCS or non-hazardous type food. That same rule would apply to them. So if they were making breads or different things that are not hazardous, not meat products, not dairy, cheeses, things like that, they could fall under the Homemade Food Act and not require permitting. However, if they are making burritos that contain meat or things that do require a permit, what we've been instructed by legal counsel is we would have to get an MOU with the tribe in order to permit them so they could sell that food off tribal land.
Okay, and can you point to me is it currently in these proposed rules that unique detail regarding pueblos and tribes?
The what? I'm sorry.
About like you were saying the MOU with the pueblo or tribe to certify them. I didn't see that. I guess that's what I'm asking.
We do have a legal opinion. Is that something we can provide to the board? Sure. Okay.
But the MOU requirement, that's not in the proposed rule.
No, that is not in the regulations. That was a legal legal determination that we reviewed and received after the question was posed.
Okay. And then so therefore like my burrito example that could not be made and sold since it would be at home. Say somebody, did it at home. Is that correct? And
yes, that is correct.
And I believe that's a change, right, in the strikeout tracking red line version?
No, that is not. That has always been the case.
Okay. So
that is not.
I'm sorry there's a little lag. I don't mean that to speak over you. So I thought I saw something about home kitchens. There was a unique, it was under the home-based food processing section.
Yes.
Yeah, so 7.6.2.15, all of that would be stricken in this proposal, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you are correct. That would all be removed. And the reason for that removal is because there's now no longer a requirement for permitting and inspection of these homemade food processors, since the Homemade Food Act now allows that without a permit or inspection by the department. So nothing's changed except they can still do the same type of food products at home, the non-TCS or non-potentially hazardous foods. But so nothing's changed with the types of foods. It's just now they no longer have to obtain a permit or inspection by the department.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I don't have any further questions at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Mr. Weatherby, I'll get to you in a second. I just have a couple of quick questions. Actually, I think we covered the home rule jurisdiction question. You guys don't regulate Bernalillo County then? Is that true?
You're correct. We do not regulate the County of Bernalillo or the City of Albuquerque. Okay. They have their own programs.
And then any others around the state that are home rule?
Just tribes.
Okay.
Would be the only other exemption.
And then what was the other question I had? Oh, you mentioned meat, dairy. Eggs are included in that, are they not, as well, in the TCS?
So eggs in general that are, eggs that are laid are covered by NMDA. However, eggs that are put into food products would be considered a TCS product or potentially hazardous. It would not fall under the Homemade Food Act.
Because you mentioned a number of them, but the eggs weren't part of that. And
right.
I think eggs belong in there too.
I mean, eggs going into baked goods, that's fine. But if you're making an egg burrito, that is different.
Wet.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
That's all I have. Mr. Weatherby, I'm going to call on you next. Thank you for your patience.
Ms. Navarez, thank you very much for your work and for those of your colleagues. I just have, I think it's a quick question. Will The rules amendments that you're proposing address, as far as fees and covering costs, address a problem that exists right now. It's I saw an email that was distributed to within the department saying that no food inspections are being done right now since Monday because of a lack of transportation funds. That's from an official email to all the inspection folks. Is this part of the problem, the fact that you need to update these rules?
Yes, as we'd mentioned, we've tried multiple ways to increase our revenue, and all of them have not been met with any additional funding to us. So that's why we're here today proposing the additional fees. As Member Ely presented, it's not going to fully sustain what we need. However, we have to start somewhere because we're just getting further and further into debt.
Is it accurate to say then that there, other than in an emergency situation, there are no inspectors being able to do the job they normally do as of today, as of Monday, and through until further notice?
And it's not necessarily just the inspections. We're not saying we can't go out and do inspections. What we're saying is we, unfortunately, because we had to move all our funds that cover our vehicles and fuel, we had to move them into our payroll section of our funds to cover payroll. So since we have no additional funds to cover our vehicles, we've had to limit our staff's resources of using vehicles to go out and do inspections.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And I obviously, this is an important rule. Hopefully, someone can do something about that because it's a pretty drastic situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weatherby. So yeah, go ahead. Carrie Lee.
Ms. Navarro, I'm wondering about the timing of October 1st. It'll be after you submit your budget for 2027 to the legislature, but you still feel confident you'll be able to utilize that revenue even if you haven't realized that revenue. I mean, how's that going to work? Have you thought about that?
We have. Unfortunately, we'd like to put these into effect sooner than later. However, there's so many movements in the background that we have to put in place before we can start the collection, invoicing, processing, and accepting fees. So we got to get those things in place first in our database. Once we do that, yes, you're absolutely right. We're not going to realize these fees as soon as we start charging them. We're not going to get $400,000 in the bank on October 1st. It's going to be over the course of a year that these fees will be paid, and we'll start realizing the effects of these fees.
So perhaps you'll request the use of projected fees from because you still have to go to the legislature to approve your budget, even though you don't have money in the bank yet, but you will potentially use a fee projection to convince them to allow you to spend more money on staffing and other costs.
Yes, yeah, and even with these, we're still going to need additional funding. I did provide our FTE calculator as well, and if you look at that, we looked at based on the number of hours we have, which we all know is 2080, the number of hours we have every year to work. And then we have to take out leave, we have to take out our administrative duties, all those other things that we have to do besides inspections. Based on that analysis, even if we were fully staffed, we really still need 30 more people to do our job effectively. We've just lost positions time and time again over the years that haven't been replaced. And the need is not only to fill what we have right now on the books, but to get additional staff in the future as well.
Thank you for that. I have no further questions.
All righty. Thank you. We're looking also for public comment in the room. Is that anybody else? Come on forward, please. Can you, yeah, you guys can sit up here, by the way, too. We got extra space. You just push the button on the microphone in order for it to work.
You're welcome to
state, spell your name. for the record?
My name is John Roderick, Roderick. I'm the Deputy Cabinet Secretary at New Mexico Environment Department. And I'm here first of all to thank this board for hearing this.
Can you, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So again, thank you for this board for hearing this. I want to just stand and express the concern that we have and the necessity for us to be able to get additional funding, and this is a small piece of it, be able to protect the public. The Environmental Health Bureau is in fact the front line in the state of New Mexico that stands between all of our citizens and potential foodborne illness outbreaks, issues with swimming, and issues with, as was stated, the on-site wastewater systems or septic systems. And it's critical that we be able to meet that need. To do that, we're pulling out all the stops. We're looking at every avenue available to us. As was stated, the fees that we're talking about today are the ones that we are allowed to petition to change. Our actual permit fees, which would make up the bulk of what we do, has to be approved by the legislature. It's capped by the legislature. And the reality is that even if we were able to increase those permit fees, we could not increase them to a level that would cover the costs of operation, simply because the majority of our permittees who are mom and pop operations couldn't support that. So we're looking at many solutions to solve a serious problem in New Mexico, and just want to thank this board for hearing this petition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Please.
Question. Deputy Roderick, what's the statutory cap?
$200 per year.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. Are you also going to testify, sir? Can you state and spell your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Jason Espinoza, JASON ESPINOZA.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Proceed.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. As previously stated, my name is Jason Espinoza, and I'm here on behalf of the New Mexico Restaurant Association and our members across the state. We strongly oppose the proposed fee increases in the proposed rule. These changes would impose a significant and unwarranted financial burden on an industry already operating on thin margins and facing rising costs across the board. But this isn't just a question of cost, it's also a question of legal authority. State law, specifically 25-1-1-7, sets clear limits on fees for food establishments. It caps annual permit fees at $200 and temporary permits at $25 per event. The current rule already meets those limits. The proposed amendments go beyond that framework. They introduce new categories of fees, such as plant review fees, variance fees, and significantly increased late and reinspection fees that are not expressly authorized by statute. By adding these additional charges on top of the maximum permit fee allowed by law, the rule effectively increases the cost of obtaining and maintaining permission to operate beyond what the legislature has permitted. In practice, these are not optional costs. They are required to open, operate, or remain in compliance. That means they function like permit fees. And if so, they raise serious concerns about whether the rule is consistent with and likely exceeds the authority granted under state law. If additional categories of fees are necessary, that authority should come from the legislature, not created through rulemaking. We understand the department has previously sought legislative changes related to its fee authority, but was not successful. That makes it especially important that any expansion of fees occur through the legislative process, not through administrative rulemaking. Beyond the legal issue, the impact is real, especially in rural communities. Many of the establishments regulated by the state operate outside Bernalillo County, often with fewer resources and lower margins. These increases will fall hardest on small, locally owned businesses. Restaurants support strong food safety standards, but the food safety program was designed to protect public health, not function as a revenue generating mechanism. We respectfully urge the board to reject the proposed fee increases or revise them to ensure they remain within the statutory limits and its statutory framework and do not impose disproportionate burdens on New Mexico businesses. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. If any party wishes a rebuttal testimony, may be offered now in the same order as the direct testimony. Want to proceed with the petitioner? Do you have any rebuttal testimony?
I just wanted to reiterate again that, you know, the new fees are either one-time fees or fees that would come into play only if someone is out of compliance. So they are meant to encourage compliance. Additionally, the increase of fees are reasonable in that we compared them to nearby states and they are comparable. So they are not meant to punish. They are, you know, we believe that they're reasonable. And again, as stated before, we believe we do have the statutory authority for these fees.
Counsel?
Thank you for that. Is there any other rebuttal? I don't think there is. So just to make sure for the record, if you could, for the exhibits.
Oh, yeah. The exhibits.
We did it.
We didn't move admission of the exhibits.
Just to confirm, if we could just do that for the record. If what some exhibits you would like to admit to the record.
Oh, yeah, I thought they were already. Yes, we would like to move the admission of NMED exhibits 1 through 23 into the record and to make those part of the administrative record in this.
Is there any objection? Hearing none and seeing none online, they are so admitted. All right. Any person who testified and who wishes to make a brief closing argument may now do so in the same order as direct testimony. And we'll start with the petitioner. If you have any closing argument.
Yes, I just have a short closing. Just hearing officer Bitzer, members of the board. You know, the Bureau's put a lot of work into revising these regulations. They've involved the regulated community in the process and informed them of these changes. And we respectfully ask the board to adopt the regulations as we propose them in NMED exhibit.
All right. I'd like to thank the board and everyone present for their participation today. A quorum of the members attended the hearing today. The hearing notice indicated that a decision might be made at the conclusion of the hearing. The board may immediately deliberate and decide on the proposed regulatory changes at the conclusion of the hearing. Anyone see any reason not to close the hearing record at this time? Seeing none, the record of this public hearing is now closed. Thank you very much. Let the record show that this hearing was adjourned at 11:37 a.m. Madam Chair, do I turn that back over to you now then?
I think so.
Excellent. Take it away.
Yeah. I'm going to propose, well, we're getting on to lunch out. Let's leave. Okay. Okay. I'm going to poll the board and see how they feel about deliberating today, or if there's a need to perhaps deliberate in the future, perhaps wait for an amended statement of reasons to include some of the provisions discussed during the hearing. But I'd like your opinion. We have time.
If we postponed a decision, would that move the October date? Would that start to run into that October 1st date?
I don't think so. Council Napolitano, I think you'd still have plenty of time to submit the appropriate documents to archives and get it posted.
Yes, depends when you do deliberate, but we still have plenty of time until October. So
yeah. You ready to deliberate? Vice Chair Sweeney, do you have an opinion on whether we deliberate today or postpone it, say maybe to our May meeting?
Yeah, I'm open to either way. I feel I understand some of the logistics, so I'm good with May as well.
Member Bitzer.
I'll concur with Curry, Member Curry. We can deliberate today if there's no objection.
Okay. Right.
Sounds
So
good
it's
too.
okay. Do you want to deliberate at this moment? Do you want to take a break? Maybe. I know our council's going to probably want to leave at 1 o'clock. And how are you doing, David? Okay. So let's take a 10-minute break and we can make a decision on the deliberation once we get back at 10 to noon. Thank you. All right. It's 10 till. And right before we left for a break, we were discussing whether we should deliberate now or potentially at our next meeting on May 22nd. We didn't have a strong opinion either way, it seems like, from the board members. I'm going to propose that we delay the deliberation until our next meeting. My thinking on that is that I'd like to see a revised statement of reasons to include the statutory authority regarding administrative compliance costs, and also to address the point brought up by the Restaurant Association regarding the $200 cap under 25.1.5. I'd like NMSA, I'd like to see some kind of briefing on that to ensure that the fees being proposed here are not in violation of that statutory cap as mentioned by Deputy Roderick and the New Mexico Association. Now that's just a proposal. I'm only one member of this board. And so I'm just would like to hear what the other board members have to say about that.
I find your reasoning flawless.
Member Bitzer, do you have an opinion?
I find Member Curry's observation flawless.
Vice Chair Sweeney, are you okay with that?
Yes, I'm okay with that.
Okay, so I see thumbs up all around. I don't think we have to do a roll call vote. So we'll deliberate on May 22nd at our next meeting. And Ms. Napolitano, if we could get a revised statement of reasons, say on the close of business on the 19th, is that possible? Yeah, that would be very helpful. And then we can discuss that during our deliberations. All right, so anything else regarding the food fees that we need to discuss right now?
Next meeting is May
22nd. Yeah, on a Friday. All right. So that brings us to agenda item number 8, and which is the next meeting on May 22nd. We don't have a location on that yet, but it will be at our regular time at 9 o'clock. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll second that.
All right. You okay with adjourning, Vice Chair? All right. So we are officially adjourned. Thank you so much.
22nd?
Yeah. Yep.